Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of the mining station, watching the sunrise paint the sky of Kepler 442 be in shades of orange and purple. The twin suns always made for beautiful mornings, but today something felt different. The usual chatter from the communication center was quieter than normal. The mining colony had been his home for 3 years now. 50,000 people lived and worked here, extracting rare minerals that Earth needed for its growing space program. Jake had started as a junior supervisor, but worked his way up to captain of operations. He knew every family, every worker, every child who ran through the corridors of the underground city he had built. Carl Henderson was already at work in the deep mines when the first alarm sounded. He had been a mining engineer for 15 years and knew the difference between equipment failure and something serious. This was serious. His wife Lisa was in the hydroponics bay, tending to the crops that fed the colony. Their twins, Amy and Ben, were in school learning about Earth history. The alarm meant only one thing: ships in orbit. Unscheduled ships. Jake rushed to the command center, where Pete Collins was staring at the main screen with wide eyes. Pete ran the communication systems and had never looked so scared. "Captain, you need to see this," Pete said, his voice shaking. "We have contacts, big ones. They just appeared out of nowhere." The screen showed 12 massive objects in high orbit around their planet. Each ship was at least 2 miles long, black as space itself and shaped like spears. They moved with purpose, taking positions around the planet in a perfect circle. "Have you tried to contact them?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir." No response to any frequency. "But Captain, there's something else. I've been trying to reach Earth for the past hour. Nothing. No response from any of our colonies either. It's like everyone just disappeared." Jake felt cold fear creep up his spine. The colony had regular contact with Earth every day. Supply. Ships came and went on schedule. So other mining colonies and nearby systems checked in weekly. Complete silence was impossible unless something was very wrong. The main screen flickered, when suddenly they were looking at something that would give Jake nightmares for the rest of his life. The alien was tall, maybe 8 feet, with gray skin. Stretched tight over a skeletal frame, its eyes were completely black, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. "Humans of this world," the creature said. "I am Admiral Vexthon of the Kethvar Empire. Your species has expanded too far, too fast. You have taken worlds that belong to others. This ends now." Jake looked around the command center. Every person was frozen, staring at the screen. Nobody had ever seen an alien before. First contact was supposed to be peaceful, scientific, exciting. This felt like a death sentence. "You have 2 choices," Admiral Vexton continued. "Surrender your weapons and serve the Empire as workers. You will mine these worlds for us until you die. Your children will do the same. Or we will destroy everything on this planet and take the resources anyway. You have 72 hours to decide." The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then everyone started talking at once. People were shouting questions, crying, demanding answers that Jake didn't have. He raised his hand for silence. "Keep trying to contact Earth. Try everything. Old frequencies, emergency channels, anything. Lucy, I need you to check our defenses. What do we have?" Lucy Parker had been a sergeant in Earth's military before coming to the colony. She was the closest thing they had to a defense expert. "Not much, Captain," she said grimly. "Mining lasers we could turn into weapons. Some explosives for the mining operations. A few hunting rifles. Nothing that could hurt ships that size." Jake knew she was right. The colony had never been built for war. It was a peaceful mining operation on a planet where the biggest danger was cave-ins or equipment failure. "Sir," Pete called out, "I'm getting reports from our surface teams. The aliens have landed troops in 6 locations around the planet. They're setting up what looks like communication arrays." "What kind of troops?" "It's the same as that Admiral thing, but wearing armor. They're not attacking yet, just watching us." Jake made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. "Pete, do we still have the old emergency beacon?" "Dewan." "From the first colonial ships?" "Yes, sir, but it's ancient." from the corporate wars era. Nobody monitors those frequencies anymore. Turn it on. Send out everything. Our location. What's happening here? Everything about these aliens. Maybe somebody out there is still listening? Dr. Kevin Thompson, the colony's chief scientist, spoke up. Captain, if these aliens have been attacking our other colonies, Earth might not even exist anymore. We could be the last humans alive. The thought hit everyone like a physical blow. Earth, with its 3 billion people, gone. The dozens of colonies scattered across human space, gone. Just them. 50,000 people on a mining world facing an alien empire that could wipe them out without effort. We don't know that, Jake said firmly. Until we know for sure, we keep fighting. We keep hoping. And we make these aliens work for whatever they take from us. Over the next day, they learned more about their situation. The Kethber had indeed been attacking human colonies for months. Communication networks had been systematically destroyed. Supply ships had vanished. Entire worlds had gone silent. Carl Henderson and his mining teams worked around the clock to turn their industrial equipment into weapons. Lisa organized the evacuation of families to the deepest parts of the underground city. Amy and Ben helped carry supplies. Too young to understand that they might be witnessing the end of human civilization. The second day brought worse news. The Kethver began orbital bombardments of surface installations. The colony's power plant was destroyed. 2 of the landing platforms were turned into craters. The message was clear: surrender or face escalation. But something else happened on the second day. Pete picked up a signal on the old emergency frequency. Not a response, but an acknowledgement. Someone, somewhere, had heard their call for help. Captain, Pete said, trying to keep hope out of his voice. The beacon's working. Someone knows we're here. Jake looked at the tactical display showing Kethver ships in orbit and troops on the surface. 50,000 people depending on him. An alien empire that had already destroyed who knows how many human worlds. And now, maybe, the smallest chance that Earth still existed and was coming to help. He activated the colony-wide communication system. This is Captain Morrison to all residents. The situation is serious, but we are not giving up. We are humans. We don't surrender to bullies, even alien ones. Help may be coming. Until then, we fight for every day, every hour, every minute. We fight for each other. As the third day began, the Kethver ultimatum was almost over. Jake stood again at the observation deck, watching alien ships move across the sky like black stars. Somewhere out there, if they were very lucky, Earth's fleet was racing to reach them. But luck had never been something Jake counted on. Whatever came next, the colony would face it together. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood in the command center of the UES Defiance, staring at a holographic map that showed the current known positions of human colonies across the galaxy. Red marks indicated colonies that had gone silent. Yellow marks showed colonies under attack. Green marks represented safe worlds. There were far too many red marks and not nearly enough green ones. The Earth Defense Force had been hiding in the outer rim of the Centauri system for 6 months, watching and waiting. Rodriguez had spent 30 years in military service, starting as a young officer during the brutal corporate wars that had nearly destroyed human civilization 50 years ago. She had seen humanity at its worst and its best. And she knew that sometimes the only way to protect peace was to be ready for war, Captain. Danny Walsh entered the command center carrying a datapad with an expression that Rodriguez recognized. Bad news was coming. Admiral, we've received a signal on the old emergency frequencies, Danny said. It's from a mining colony on Kepler 44 to be. They're under attack by an alien force calling itself the Kethver Empire. Rodriguez took the data pad and read the message. The details were worse than she had feared. An organized alien military force was systematically destroying human colonies. They had superior technology in numbers. Most importantly, they seemed to know exactly where all the human settlements were located. How long ago was this sent? She asked. 18 hours. If they're still alive, they don't have much time left. Rodriguez walked to the main display and pulled up everything they knew about human colony locations. A pattern emerged that made her blood run cold. The attacks weren't random. They formed a clear path leading directly toward Earth. Danny, get me everything we have on alien contact protocols. Then wake up Dr. Nancy Clark. I need her to analyze this alien communication. We intercepted. Yes, ma'am, Admiral. There's something else. Prime Minister Patterson is requesting immediate communication with you. Rodriguez sighed. She had been expecting this call. The civilian government of Earth had spent decades rebuilding after the corporate wars. They preferred diplomacy and negotiation to military action. She understood their position, but she also understood that some enemies could not be reasoned with. The communication screen activated, showing Prime Minister Grant Patterson in his office back on Earth. He looked tired and worried, which was understandable given the circumstances. Admiral Rodriguez Patterson began. I've been briefed on the situation with the alien attacks. The Security Council has met, and we've decided that Earth cannot risk exposure by responding to this distress call. With respect, Prime Minister, I believe you're making a mistake. Lena, I understand your feelings, but we have to think about the bigger picture. Earth has 3 billion people. We cannot risk them all to save 50,000 colonists. Had expected this argument. Prime Minister, with your permission, I'd like to show you something. She activated her tactical display and showed Patterson the same pattern she had discovered earlier. Red marks showing destroyed colonies, all leading in a direct line toward Earth. Sir, these aliens aren't just attacking random colonies. They're following a specific route. Every colony they've destroyed brings them closer to Earth. The mining colony isn't just a target. It's their final staging area before they attack our home world. Patterson's face went pale as he studied the display. You're certain of this? Certain as I can be without more intelligence? But sir, there's something else. I believe these aliens see humanity as a threat that needs to be eliminated before we become too powerful to stop. Dr. Nancy Clark entered the command center at that moment. She was Earth's leading expert on languages and communication, and Rodriguez had specifically requested her for the fleet. Nancy had been analyzing intercepted alien communications for the past hour. Admiral Nancy said, I've been studying the alien message. The language structure suggests a highly organized military culture. But more importantly, I found references to what they call the human expansion problem. They're not just conquering territory. They're specifically targeting us because they see our rapid growth as a threat to their empire. Patterson listened to this information with growing concern. What are you recommending, Admiral? Rodriguez had been preparing for this moment since the first colony went silent. Prime Minister, I'm requesting permission to activate Protocol 7. The room went quiet. Protocol 7 was a military directive that had been created after the corporate wars but never used. It authorized the Earth's Defense Force to act independently in cases where the survival of the human species was at stake. Elena, you're talking about starting a war with an alien empire we know nothing about? No, sir. I'm talking about finishing a war they already started. Mr. Prime Minister, they've already destroyed dozens of our colonies. Hundreds of thousands of our people are dead. This isn't about starting a conflict. It's about survival. Patterson was quiet for a long moment. Rodriguez could see him weighing the political consequences against the military reality. Finally, he spoke. Admiral, I cannot officially authorize Protocol 7, but I also cannot stop you from making decisions you believe are necessary for the defense of humanity. Is that understood? Rodriguez smiled grimly. Patterson was giving her permission without actually giving her permission. It was a politician's answer, but it was enough. Understood, Prime Minister. Rodriguez out. The communication ended, and Rodriguez turned to her staff. Danny, signal all ships. We're moving to full combat readiness. I want every vessel in the fleet prepared for immediate departure. Admiral, what about Earth's defenses? The orbital platforms and the home guard will have to be enough. If we can stop these aliens at Kepler for 4 to be, Earth won't need defending. Over the next 4 hours, the Earth Defense Force prepared for its first major deployment since the corporate wars. 12 heavy cruisers, 4 battleships, and the massive dreadnought U Sovereign began their journey toward the Kepler. System. Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Defiance as her fleet entered hyperspace. 18 ships carrying the hopes of human civilization. She thought about the mining colonists, who were probably fighting for their lives at that very moment. She thought about the families on Earth who didn't even know they were in danger. Captain Frank Hayes, commanding the heavy cruiser UES Constitution, appeared on her communications screen. Admiral, all ships report ready for combat. Estimated arrival. Time at Kepler-4 for to be is 6 days. Understood, Frank. Signal all ships. We go in fast and hard. These aliens think they can destroy human colonies without consequences. Time to show them what happens when Earth's fleet shows up. Rodriguez looked at the tactical display, showing her fleet racing through hyperspace toward an unknown enemy. She had fought in the corporate wars when humans had tried to destroy each other. Now she was leading humanity's first interstellar war against an alien empire. The mining colony had sent out their distress call, hoping someone would hear them. In 6 days, they would learn that Earth never abandons its own. The HFY Empire was about to discover that attacking human colonies was the biggest mistake they had ever made. As the fleet continued its journey through hyperspace, Rodriguez began planning the battle that would determine whether humanity remained free or became slaves to an alien empire. She had 18 ships against an unknown number of enemy vessels. But she also had something the aliens didn't expect: 5 decades of hard-won military experience and the determination of a species that refused to surrender. The old emergency beacon had done its job. Help was coming. The only question now was whether it would arrive in time. 6 days had passed since the HFY ultimatum, and Jake Morrison could barely recognize his colony anymore. What had once been a peaceful mining settlement was now a war zone. Smoke rose from burning buildings on the surface and the underground. City hummed with the desperate activity of people fighting for their lives. The colonists had surprised everyone, especially themselves, by refusing to surrender. When the 72-hour deadline passed, Admiral Vexton had expected immediate capitulation. Dead, the humans had fought back with everything they had. Pete Collins had become something he never expected to be: a weapons engineer. Working with Carl Henderson and a team of miners, he had turned the colony's industrial mining lasers into defensive weapons. The massive machines that once cut through rock now carved through HFY landing craft. It wasn't much against an interstellar empire, but it was something. "Jake, we've got movement in Sector 7, Lucy Parker called out from the makeshift command center they had set up in the deepest part of the mine. The former sergeant had become their military commander by default, organizing civilian resistance. With the skill of someone who understood war, Jake looked at the display, showing heat signatures moving through the tunnels above them. The HFY had been probing their defenses for days, testing their responses, learning their capabilities. Each probe cost the alien soldiers, but it also cost the colonists ammunition and equipment they couldn't replace. "How many?" Jake asked. 20, maybe 25. Same as yesterday. "They're testing the north entrance again." Dr. Kevin Thompson entered the command center carrying a data pad with barely contained excitement. The colony's chief scientist had been working around the clock, analyzing captured HFY equipment from the first landing attempts. "Jake, I think I found something important," Kevin said. "The alien energy shields all operate on the same frequency. If we can modify our mining lasers to match that frequency, we might be able to punch through their defenses." Carl Henderson, who had been listening from across the room, looked up from the weapon he was repairing. "How long would that take? Maybe 6 hours if everyone helps?" "But Jake, there's something else. I've been monitoring their communications. They're getting frustrated with how long this is taking. Admiral Vexton has called for reinforcements." The news hit the command center like a physical blow. They'd been fighting one alien fleet for 6 days and barely surviving. More ships meant the end of any hope they had left. Lisa Henderson hurried into the command center with Amy and Ben close behind her. The hydroponics expert had become the colony's supply coordinator, making sure that families had food and water while their world burned above them. "Jake, we're down to 3 days of water if we keep rationing," she reported. "The surface pumping stations are all destroyed. We're running on what we stored underground." Jake looked around at the faces of people who had become his family over the past 3 years: miners, Scientists, teachers, children. None of them had ever expected to fight a war, but they had done it anyway. They had held out longer than anyone thought possible, including themselves. Lucy, what's our ammunition situation? We've got maybe 2 more days of power cells for the modified mining lasers. After that, we're down to small arms and explosives. Was about to respond when Pete suddenly straightened at his communication station. Wait, I'm getting something on the emergency frequency. Multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. The main display switched to show the space above their planet. For a moment, everyone held their breath, expecting to see more Kethfer ships arriving to finish them off. Instead, they saw something that made several people start crying. Human ships, 18 of them, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect military formation. The lead ship was massive, easily the size of a Kethfer battleship. Behind it came cruisers and destroyers, their weapons already charging for battle. Jake's hands shook as he activated the colony's main communication system. Unknown human fleet, this is Captain Jake Morrison of Kepler 44, to be mining colony. Please identify yourselves. The response came immediately, and Jake recognized the voice of someone who had spent a lifetime in command. Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. All colonists take immediate cover. We're here to take care of your alien problem. The celebration in the command center was cut short as the display showed the Earth fleet moving into attack formation. The Kethfer ships, which had been leisurely bombarding the planet, suddenly found themselves facing an enemy they hadn't expected to exist. Admiral Vexlin's voice crackled over the communication system, but this time he wasn't talking to the colonists. He was screaming orders to his fleet in the harsh Kethfer language. Kevin, can you translate any of that? Jake asked. Some of it. He's asking how human warships found them. He's ordering his ships to form defensive positions. Jake, I think they're scared. On the display, the space battle began in earnest. The Earth ships moved with precision that spoke of decades of training and experience. They didn't charge straight at the enemy like heroes in old movies. Instead, they split into groups, using coordinated attacks that confused and overwhelmed. The Kethfer fleet, Captain Frank Hayes, commanding the UES Constitution, led a flanking attack that caught 3 alien ships by surprise. The heavy cruiser's weapons turned the first Kethfer vessel into debris in seconds, as the others tried to respond, but found themselves facing attacks from multiple directions. Look at that, Pete said in amazement. The Earth ships are talking to each other instantly. No communication delay at all. Kevin nodded. Quantum communication systems. The aliens are using normal radio. By the time their ships coordinate a response, the human fleet has already moved to the next attack. The battle continued for 2 hours, and slowly the colonists began to realize they were watching something historic. The Earth Defense Force wasn't just winning. They were completely outclassing an alien empire that had seemed invincible just hours before. But then Admiral Vexton played his final card. Long-range sensors detected new contacts jumping into the system. More Kethfer ships. Many more. Jake, Lucy said quietly, I count over 100 new contacts. Even with Earth's fleet, those are bad odds. Jake watched the display as 3 entire Kethfer fleets surrounded the human ships. Admiral Rodriguez had come to save them. But now it looked like Earth's fleet would be destroyed along with the colony. Then Admiral Rodriguez did something that no one, human or alien, expected. She opened a communication channel that broadcast, to every ship in the system, Admiral Vexton, you made 2 mistakes. First, you attacked human colonies. Second, you assumed the fleet you see here was all that Earth could send. As she spoke, space around the Kethfer reinforcements began to fill with new contacts. Human ships dropping out of hyperspace in all directions, dozens of them. The aliens found themselves surrounded by a trap that had taken months to prepare. Jake realized what had happened. The mining colony hadn't just been saved. It had been used as bait for the largest space battle in human history. Admiral Rodriguez had turned the aliens' own strategy against them, using their predictable tactics to draw their fleets into a carefully planned ambush. The real battle was about to begin. And for the first time in days, Jake believed they might actually survive. The space around Kepler-4 to be had become a maze of laser fire and exploding ships. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching her carefully planned trap unfold perfectly. The Kethver Empire had brought over 200 ships to what they thought would be an easy victory. Dead. They found themselves surrounded by the largest human fleet ever assembled. Jake Morrison and his colonists watched from their underground shelter as the battle raged above them. The display showed human ships attacking from every direction, their weapons coordinated with precision that seemed impossible, but the numbers were still daunting. Even with the advantage of surprise, Earth's fleet was outnumbered 3-1. Admiral Vexen's voice echoed through space as he screamed orders to his scattered fleets. The alien commander had expected to crush a small human settlement and maybe destroy one Earth ship. Now, he faced a military force that fought with tactics he had never encountered. Captain Steve Johnson commanded a group of smaller human ships that seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts. His stealth destroyers used technology the Kethver couldn't detect, striking at command ships and vanishing before the aliens could respond. Each attack left the enemy fleet more confused and disorganized. Admiral Danny Walsh reported from his position at the tactical station. The stealth squadrons have eliminated 8 Kethver command vessels. Their fleet coordination is breaking down. Rodriguez nodded. The battle was going according to plan, but she knew the real test was yet to come. The Kethver Empire controlled hundreds of star systems. Even if they won this battle, it would only be the beginning of a much larger conflict. Dr. Nancy Clark had been working at a communication station throughout the battle, analyzing every piece of alien chatter she could intercept. Suddenly, she looked up with excitement. "Admiral, I found something important. The Kethver Empire isn't as united as we thought. I'm detecting communications from ships that aren't following orders. Some of them are from species that were conquered by the Kethver years ago. What are they saying? They're discussing rebellion. Apparently the Kethver had plans to eliminate several of their allied species once the human threat was removed. Our intelligence broadcasts are reaching them." Rodriguez smiled grimly. Information warfare had always been humanity's secret weapon. Nancy broadcast everything we've learned about Kethver expansion plans. Sure, every ship in their fleet. Here's it. On the planet below, Kevin Thompson was monitoring the alien communications with growing amazement. "Jake, you need to hear this. The alien fleet is falling apart. Some of their ships are turning on each other." The display showed exactly what Kevin described. Ships that had been part of the Kethver fleet moments before were now firing on their former allies. Species that had been enslaved by the Empire were finally getting their chance for revenge. But Admiral Vexton had one final, desperate plan. Long-range sensors detected a massive energy buildup from his flagship. The alien was preparing to use a weapon that could destroy the entire star system. "Admiral Rodriguez," came the panicked voice of Captain Tony Martin from the cruiser U.S. Independence. "The alien flagship is charging some kind of stellar disruption device. If that thing fires, it'll destabilize the system's star." Rodriguez realized what Vexton was planning. If he couldn't win the battle, he would destroy everything, including his own fleet. The Kethver Admiral would rather see the system burn than admit defeat to humans. "All ships, concentrate fire on the alien flagship," Rodriguez ordered. But even as her fleet turned their weapons on Vexen's ship, she knew they wouldn't be fast enough. The stellar weapon was almost ready to fire. "Tony." Martin made a decision that would be remembered in Earth's history books forever. "Admiral, this is Captain Martin. I'm going to ram the flagship. It's the only way to stop that weapon." "Tony, negative. There has to be another way, ma'am. With respect, there isn't time. Tell my family I was proud to serve with Earth's finest." U.S. Independence broke formation and accelerated directly toward the Kethver flagship. Vexen's ship tried to turn away, but the human cruiser was moving too fast. The collision destroyed both vessels in a brilliant explosion that lit up the entire system. The stellar weapon died with Admiral Vexen, and the remaining Kethver ships found themselves facing a simple choice: surrender or be destroyed by an increasingly angry human fleet. Most chose surrender. The battle ended with the complete destruction of the Kethfer forces in the sector. But as Rodriguez surveyed the aftermath, she knew this victory came with a price. Captain Martin and his crew were gone, and the galaxy now knew that humanity was no longer hiding. On Kepler 4 to B, Jake Morrison led the colonists to the surface. For the first time in a week, the mining settlement was damaged but not destroyed. More importantly, the 50,000 people who had refused to surrender are alive and free. Carl Henderson found his family in the crowd of survivors. Lisa was helping organize medical care for the wounded. Amy and Ben were already asking when they could go back to school. Life, somehow, was returning to normal. Pete Collins was back at his communication station, but now he was coordinating with Earth Defense Force ships instead of sending desperate pleas for help. Jake, Admiral Rodriguez wants to speak with you. The communication screen showed the Admiral on the bridge of her flagship. She looked tired but satisfied. Captain Morrison, I wanted to personally thank you and your people. Your refusal to surrender gave us the time we needed to prepare this operation. Admiral, we just did what anyone would do. We didn't want to be slaves. Captain, most people would have surrendered when faced with impossible odds. Your colonists prove something important about human nature. We don't give up, even when we should. Jake looked around at his people. Miners who had become soldiers, scientists who had become engineers, teachers who had become medics, children who had become heroes. What happens now, Admiral? Now we make sure this never happens again. Kethfer Empire sent a message to the galaxy when they attacked human colonies. Today, we sent a message back. Rodriguez addressed not just Jake, but every human in the system through an open broadcast. The galaxy has seen what happens when human space is threatened. Earth's fleet will always come. No human world stands alone. Captain Alice Foster, Rodriguez's aide, was already updating colonial defense protocols throughout human space. New directive was simple and clear. Earth would never again allow its people to face extinction alone, as the Earth's Defense Force began establishing permanent bases in the system. Jake realized that everything had changed. The Kepler 4 to be mining colony would never again be an isolated outpost. It was now a symbol of human determination and the first victory in what would become known as the Human Expansion Wars. The Kepler Empire had made a fatal mistake. They had attacked humanity expecting to find easy victims. Instead, they discovered a species that would fight to the last breath for their freedom, and would cross the galaxy to protect their own. The age of human expansion had begun, backed by the fleet that had proven no one could threaten Earth's children without facing the consequences.